Joey. Today I have a really fun little video. I'm going to be making some of my own decorative head pins, and it started because I'm actually working on the design for another video in my video series about pearls, and I needed a really long head pin, like a 3.5-inch head pin for my design, and I wanted something really decorative and really avant-garde, and I just didn't have it in my stash, but I have plenty of wire and plenty of tools, and I started to just make these because I always have some made up, and I didn't today, and I was making them, and I thought I should share this with everybody, and then I'll also be ready for my video. So I'll show you just a few of the ones that I do. I'm going to put a few in this video. I think all of these are really beginner friendly, I meant to say. If you're new to my channel, then I'll tell you that I like designs that are simple, easy to accomplish, and really stunning. So like this is one that I just love. It's just a little squiggle. I like making these kind of coiled head pins. When I'm doing this, I always put a few beads out so that I can try them. I do a little figure 8 head pin. I put these spiral head pins with the pearls in the center in one of my Pearls Reimagined series. They're really cool, and you can see sometimes I hammer my head pins and sometimes I leave the wire round. So I'm not going to do those today because I've already done that in a video, but spirals I've also done a lot in my videos. It's one of my favorite little things to do with wire, and these are ones that I've put on my bench block and hammered. So I'm not going to do a spiral today, but these little easy figure 8 head pins are so fun to do and so easy, and the little squiggles and these little corkscrews. And so for the design that I was working on, that's what I was doing. I was playing with the different ones. And so for making head pins, I use a lot of tools. For one of the designs, I use a flat nose plier. For one of the designs, I use my 6-step bail making plier, the smallest step. I use both of my chain nose pliers from Xuron, my bent chain nose and my regular chain nose pliers. I use my round nose pliers as well, and I always have a nylon jaw plier. In fact, I have two. I have an older one where the jaw is really used, and I just got a new one, and I'm actually quite like having the two different ones because I use them so much for wire working. So I'm going to show you what I did on these. I'm also, for all of my head pins, I'm using my Soft Flex 20 gauge wire. It has an anti-tarnish coating on it, so I will not have to brush my Permalac coating on them unless I have hammered it, because when you do this, when you hammer and texture the wire, you do disturb the coating. And so in that case, if I've added diamond cutting or denting or any kind of an effect to my wire like I did on this little squiggle, I will take my Permalac coating and just brush it over where I've disturbed, so that way my wire will stay that shiny, pretty color. And of course, you can do this with silver, copper, antique brass. You can do these with whatever metal finish you prefer. I am a gold lover, and the project that I was working on, I was doing in gold. So I'll just show you. I put a few beads out here just so that when I'm sitting down to make some head pins for my stash, I can kind of see how they look on different beads. I can kind of decide, and I do different lengths. I even will save all my scraps of wire and, you know, just make different varied lengths. This is one of my favorites. I love this little squiggle. It's very contemporary, and I finished this part a little bit differently. You can also, like, once the bead is on, you can give it a little push, but they are so pretty, and you can't buy anything like that. And so, like, I like to just play with, I'll put a few, when I'm going to sit and make them, I'll put a few beads out and just see how everything looks. Like this really cool coin bead looks amazing with a little squiggly head pin coming out from underneath it. I'll even put like a metal bead out here so that I can have a look and see like how my work is going to be when I start stringing it. So let's jump in. Let's start with the little squiggle, since I have my flat nose pliers right here. And I'm going to set those aside, and I'm going to take a little piece of that 20 gauge wire. And like I said, I don't really measure. You can see I have all different lengths here because depending on the project, you know, I need all different lengths. And I just really love doing this. So I always start, like this doesn't need it, but I always start with a fresh blunt cut. And when I'm doing the squiggle, I'm going to start off with my wire just about in the middle of that flat nose plier. I hope you can see that. And then I'm just going to bend it around the plier like that. And so that's my start. And then I'm going to come back in and fit my flat nose plier in that spot, and I'm going to bend it in the opposite direction. And I'm going to work my way up like that, just flipping it around in my hand so that I can get in there. And you can make these as dramatic as you want. I usually do 4 to 5 little passes. But if I have like a huge bead, like if I know I'm making it for like a really chunky bead, I may add an extra 1 or 2, and if, you know, depending on what I'm making. So I'll do this one. I'll do this one about like that. So let me get my fingers out of the way. So it looks like that right now. And then really to all of these, to me, the trickiest part is whatever design you do, your wire needs to be coming, your upward wire, your pin part of your head pin needs to be directed straight up the middle of whatever design you did. And on some of these, like particularly the coil, that's tricky, but it's doable. You know, it's really, so I'll use whatever plier I need to. Like in this case, I'll come with my flat nose plier and I'm going to come from this direction, because if I try to push it in here and bend this wire straight up like I need it, it will not be in the middle of my design. So I'm going to go in the opposite direction. I'm going to come out here like that, and let me get a little bit more in the middle. Just guesstimate. You can make adjustments. And now I'm just going to hold it as best I can and bend that straight up, and I am well on my way to a head pin. It still feels like it's not right in the center. And then I'll just warm, straighten, and smooth this between my fingers if I need nylon jaw pliers, because I like them to be ready and I keep them in my stash. And so when I'm designing, I can look through my assortment and they're already made. So I do buy ball head pins. I love Purity beads. They have an e-coating on solid brass head pins, and I do love them, but I like to make my own too. So from here, I'm going to start tightening up my little coil and just shaping it. It's really hard. You can do a little bit of hand sculpting on these head pins, but they're small, and it is a little bit hard to do this with your fingers. So I'll just get my pliers in there however I need to and just tighten it up. And so for me, this is like, I'm a fiddler when I'm a perfectionist, and I will fuss with a thing like this. So that's one of the reasons I like having them made up, because when I'm focused on just making the head pins, I can make each one perfect before I move on to the next, and I'm not like in a project. So so on this one, I'm going to decide that I'm not hammering it. So I'm going to use my nylon jaw pliers so that I can, you know, get everything the way that I want it without marring the wire. So I'll just keep going until I have this little squiggle looking the way that I want it. And usually for this little part, I will try to snuggle it as close as I can to my bottom curve. It just gives it a little bit of a finished look. And just that fast and easy, really letting the tool do the work for me. My head pin is done. Oh, since I picked up this chunky bead, look how cool. It's so beautiful. These are just they're so fun to make. As you can see, when I sit down and start to make them, they're really fun. So the next one we'll do is also super easy, the little figure 8 head pin. So let me grab another piece of my 20 gauge wire. I hope the noise next door is not too bad for all of you. I have a neighbor that I don't know what he does all the time, but for the last 4 or 5 days, there's been saws and motors, and for me, it's really loud outside my window. I don't know what the microphone is picking up. I can't edit that when I edit if I'm talking, so when I'm giving instruction in a video, there's really nothing that I can do about the noise, and it's been impossible to work with all of that. So I hope it's not too bad for you guys. But I'm going to trudge on. So I have my 6-step bail making plier, and I'm going to use the tiniest step on this plier. If you had, again, if you know you're going to be making this for a chunky bead, you could go up. You can make this figure 8 a little bit bigger. But for me, I think this is kind of the sweet size. And I'm just going to put that in there so that this is flush. And it kind of looks like the way we start anything, like a coil or anything. But I'm just going to roll it back until it's touching the, you know, the body of the wire. And then I'm going to take it out and put my plier back in so that I will be wrapping around this small bail again, the smallest mandrel. And I'm going to just come all the way around and just pull it all the way until the plier is in my way. Now this is in my way, so I need to rotate this and just keep going because I'm going to bring this right around, and it's the head pin now. So when I take it out, this is my head pin where my bead will go, and that's what I have. So I do use, what did I do with them? Oh, my round nose pliers. If I have gotten this off in any way on this one, I'll put my round nose pliers in the 2 loops and just, you know, get my wire directed straight up the front like that. But this is a super easy one. If you didn't get it, just back the video up and watch it again. It's a really super easy one. And on these, I'll even, like, I'm not going to hammer this because it's really hard to hammer where the wire is laying on top of itself. So I'll just use my nylon jaw pliers to get the little shape just perfect. And sometimes even the imperfections in those gives it a handmade quality, not machine made. And it's just really lovely. So just grab a bead and just test it out and see how it looks. So pretty. I love it. Okay, another little guide done. And let me get another piece of my 20 gauge wire, and I'll show you what I think is the trickiest is the little spiral, or the little spring. It's not a spiral, it's a spring head pin. So let me just snip a little piece of my wire, and I always like to just run it between my fingers and smooth it, but also it warms it, and the wire will perform better for you. You get better turns, easier loops. And here again, let me clean away some of these tools so it's not a distraction. Here again, I'm going to use this 6-step bail making plier, and this is going to look like the way that I begin a jump ring and the way that I began the figure 8. I'm just going to make sure it's not sticking out, and I'm pushing this against my finger because truly this coil needs to be as neat and as tight as I can get it to make a pretty head pin. But I can already see like that I have a little space there, and it's totally okay. I'll show you what I do to make it perfect. And you can again do as many as you want. I usually do 5 to 6. I like the shape, like a barrel shape that I get with it. But I see that I have like a little space there. So while it's still on the plier, I'll come in and just tighten it. And, you know, just allow the tool to do a lot of the work for you. And usually for me, I have to snip that end once I've turned this into a head pin. And I will even, while I have this grip here on these, since I find these the most challenging, let me switch hands because I'm right hand dominant, but sometimes I will even get myself going on my head pin like that before I take it off the plier. And, you know, so it's kind of going in the direction that I need it to. And so as you can see, there's not much to hold on here. So I do find this one the most challenging to get it into the head pin shape. But one of the tricks to that is to reach inside the coil with your pliers, get a little grip in there. I try not to mar my wire on these because obviously I can't do hammering and texturing on a coil. So I do have it. If you can see, I'm working my way so that my wire is going to be coming straight out of the center. And I'm just going to direction that up and warm and straighten, get it to looking like a head pin. And I leave myself, as you can see, plenty of wire because whatever bead I'm going to use this head pin on, this is not wasted. I can cut this away and create another head pin or do a simple loop component. You know, my wire does not go to waste. I don't waste very much at all, but when I'm filming, I never work off the spool because it's just in the way of the camera. So here again, I'm gonna just fiddle with this until I have my coils nice and neat. I don't know if this is too small for you to see, but since this is a head pin, I just don't like the way this finished. So I'm gonna come right here and just remove that little bit and get my pliers in there and just make this perfect. Just like snuggle that up. That looks great. And here again, especially on this one, it's really nice to have a bead because you can see how your bead is going to sit on your head pin. And when you string these, like you can actually, the bead gives you a little leverage to tidy things up and get things going the way you might want them. And don't forget nylon jaw pliers. So like they really help you to handle some of those little adjustments without marring the wire. That looks really good. It needs a little bit more straightening. Like I said, I find this one the trickiest as far as getting my wire, my upward wire, my pin wire to be coming directly out of the center of the head pin. This one is the trickiest. That's why I saved it for last. But it's one of my favorites. I really like it. I'm just going to tighten up those coils. And that is that. It looks they're so fun to make. They're just so great to make. I love doing these. Like I said, I was working on my next pearl. I'll give you a little sneak peek. I'm working on this. I'm going to film this today. This was another head pin that I made because I needed a decorative head pin. But I don't know. I wish I could have a vote on what you guys like the best for this piece. But that's just a little sneak peek of my next pearl video. And I am going to film it today. So I hope this was helpful. I started a playlist about a year ago on making your own findings, and there are some really unique things in there, not your typical things. I always show how to make your own jump rings. I do that a lot. I show a lot of kind of doing your own findings as I go in my projects, but I decided to separate this video out today and just show you what you can do. I can't remember which video I showed how to make a head pin where your pearl is in the center of your spiral, but I'll search for that and link that in the description box, as well as the playlist with all the different ways to make cool findings for yourself without, machine made or without ordering them. It really comes in handy, especially with anti-tarnish wire. So I'll put some pictures of these beauties up at the end of the video. I hope everybody's safe and well and having fun on your beading mats. See you in the next video.